Allah says of the seventh commandment, and give full measure and weight in justice. We do not charge any soul except with that within its capacity. And here in this ayah, Allah says, "O fool," which means to care for and to not decrease from it. It is a command to attend to both measure and weight. And what is intended is that there's a difference between measure and weight being made in the ayah, commanded to attend both to measure and weight. And so Allah is making the distinction between measure and weight here in the ayah, each with a separate meaning, of course, according to the area or location. Both measure, that is size or volume, and then also weight, have to do with the transactions of business and upholding justice within our dealings, which is why Allah makes mention of justice as its condition. So Allah says, give full measure and weight in justice. Allah thus prescribes the prohibition of stealing, which is why Allah makes mention of justice as its condition. Give full measure and weight in justice. And so in commanding us by giving full measure and weight in justice, Allah is also implicitly commanding, or that is prohibiting us from stealing, particularly as it relates to transactions, which in weight and measurement. And as understood from this ayah is that there's the prohibition of stealing overall, because this is a form of oppression. That is to try to sell somebody in a way that is not right, or to decrease the amount which is necessary, or the amount that is required and that is charged. And this thus is in line with the other revelations, which is not to steal. But Allah has given it a particularity that is not found in other revelations. So perhaps others might only understand it as taking away from property. But it is also understood here that it's engaged with the transactions within the very ways in which the people are able to build a society. And so then Allah saves the people from oppression, and at the same time promotes the safety and trust within our civilizations. So it's obvious that any society that fears constantly for its money or provision and has weakened relations between its members is thus a corrupted society, one that has gone astray and is transgressive of the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because of this, Allah has made the commandment to deal appropriate in weight and measure at a general level, knowing that there are people who require this. But then there's also people, a class of people who have taqwa, the people who are righteous, and because of their fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will try to overdo it. And in their overdoing of their transactions and their generosity in business, then they get taken advantage of. And so this is why at the end Allah mentions in the ayah, we do not charge any soul except with that within its capacity. Which is to say that Allah is allowing them to work and to charge at a way that will give them their own provision and will not put a hardship upon them, because that the world of business and the world of transactions and dealings with people can be vicious. And then evidence for this is simply the world of business and transactions that happens today in our society, particularly within the West, and that these transactions are constantly part of the most competitive and the most vicious cycle that you can imagine. And so the righteous will be taken advantage of if they are not able to also sell and do transactions in a way that will uphold and give them the standards which are necessary to live by. And so this is part of also Allah's justice, which is to draw fear in those who want to cheat, but then also to inspire those who want to do in business in a righteous way. And so this is of the greatest understanding that Allah can give, is that He can strike fear in the ones who are transgressive and strike hope in the ones that seek their submission to Him and Him alone. And a great hadith is narrated to us an Abdullah bin Umar radiyallahu anhu that the Prophet ﷺ said, if a people are to shorten in their weights of transactions, then the prosperity of the plants is prohibited and diminished. Subhanallah. That if they shorten their weights in transactions, that is, they cheat in their dealings, then their prosperity will diminish. And that they do not prohibit charity, except that it leads to drought, and that Allah will authorize a ruler for them, oppressing them. So take heed, because this is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those who seek to transgress it, then they are doing nothing but calling upon their own selves destruction.